Standing in the way of the government are the unelected peers. The amendment the Lords backed yesterday, were it adopted by the Commons, would require the Prime Minister to go back to Brussels and renegotiate if Parliament votes down the final deal, and it also takes the no-deal option off the table. Well, let's go to Westminster, to our two favourite Brexit politicians, both of them elected. Seema Malhotra of the Labour Party and Nigel Evans from the Conservatives. It's lovely to see you both.
Great.
Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, like me or loathe me, don't bind my hands when I'm negotiating on behalf of the British nation. John Major, 1997, Seema Malhotra. Is the House of Lords trying to bind the hands of the current Prime Minister?
Well, I completely disagree, and I think actually the reaction today by Theresa May has really shown that this is Theresa May's Mayday call, because she's desperately worried in reality about whether she'll be able to keep the support of her own backbenchers when these very important amendments come to the Commons. Now, if I was Nigel, I would have actually welcomed yesterday's move, because he campaigned for parliamentary sovereignty, for control to come back to our Parliament for our laws. And so it sort of beggars belief that when you have the Lords, whose job it is to make sure we improve our legislation, to give ideas for maybe things that the Commons hasn't debated yet, like the Alf Dubs Amendment on family reunion yesterday, but other areas where perhaps the Commons hasn't debated it enough, to say, look, you're the sovereign lead chamber here in our country, but these are the things that we think you should be debating more. So if I was Theresa May and her cabinet, I would be welcoming what happened yesterday, and in fact, if I was Nigel, I certainly would.
How many people do you want to be? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it, to see Seema Malhotra, the great defender of the unelected House of Lords, the champion.
I never thought I'd see this. Of democracy.
I never thought I'd see this.
And this is all about improving our legislation. I mean, what it really says is if there is a situation where there is a disagreement with the deal, that Parliament has a say in what happens next.
Yeah, but it strikes me as all a little bit odd, because I got elected in 1992, and the first piece of controversial legislation that we dealt with was the Maastricht Treaty, and John Major was Prime Minister at that time. And so to hear members of the House of Lords talking about parliamentary sovereignty when they rammed through the Maastricht Treaty through both houses of Parliament, which in effect gave more powers from this Parliament to the European Union. So really, I'm not going to take any lectures from unelected peers, particularly some of whom were part of the major government.
Nigel.
Sorry.
I'm going to, after we get off air, you can rant and rave about unelected elites all you like. But look, even you have got to admit that this is another blow, in a week in which she's lost a senior cabinet member, to the government's Brexit strategy, isn't it?
Well,
it just is.
I would have preferred if the House of Lords hadn't have done what they did last night, but the fact is that it goes from the House of Lords to us. We will look at the suggestions that they've made, but really, do we believe that we should tie the hands of Theresa May when she's negotiating with Michel Barnier about what sort of trading relationship should exist between the European Union and the United Kingdom? And of course, you should always have the option of being able to walk away from a deal if they try and offer us a bad deal. What the House of Lords now want us to do is to be able for Parliament to force Theresa May to go back if there is no deal. That means that Michel Barnier's got no incentive to give us a good deal.
Surely, Nigel, what it also does is it gives Parliament that say, and it, in a sense, protects the Prime Minister, because there can be no disagreement about the legality then of the way forward, even if there is no deal. That it is for Parliament, surely, to also have a say in whether we should go forward that way. But what Nigel doesn't say, and I think this is where this is missing from the debate, that no deal also has a cost, a very big economic cost. And what Theresa May has to do is to listen to Parliament. This is all I think these procedural amendments, these process amendments are about. Which is about the voice of Parliament, and we represent our constituents. That's our democracy.
If you were looking at UK PLC, and as the elected representatives, that's who you're supposed to be representing, isn't it a bit of a poor show that almost 14 months into this negotiation, MPs of all parties have not coalesced around one plan for the benefit of the UK?
In fact, if I just make this point, actually last week there was a cross-party consensus in the debate that we had on the customs union, and why the chairs of the select committees, a whole range of select committees, had brought that debate because of the importance for our stability of our trade and for our economy. So where Parliament is actually coalescing, what we see is a distance between the government and Parliament. It's actually Parliament that's the sovereign body in our country.
Well, actually,
Nigel,
I would say the people are sovereign, and the people had the vote in 2016, so the people are sovereign.
And they didn't vote for government analogy.
And if I was an investor looking at whether to buy shares in UK PLC, and I was looking at the fact that there hasn't been a coalescence around one particular message, I would blame the CEO, wouldn't I?
Well, no. What's happening is that we've got some people, both in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, that simply refuse to accept the the verdict of the British people in the referendum. So they're doing everything that they can to either thwart the decision of the referendum or to dilute it. People here believe that if they can still have something like a customs union or some sort of customs arrangement which is justifiable by the European courts, that maybe after the next general election, if Seema's party takes power, they can go back in.
Isn't that part of what's actually going to be debated by the Cabinet tomorrow? But what Nigel has perhaps conveniently forgotten is that you can leave the European Union or not be in the European Union and still be in the customs union or still be even in aspects of the single market.
I don't wish to refight the old
debate is a little bit bigger than that.
I don't want to.
Simplistic, Nigel.
Well, I think what the Cabinet will be talking about tomorrow at Downing Street is that we're definitely not being part of a customs union or a customs union, and what we're looking for is a trading relationship with the European Union whereby we still want to buy their cars, we still want to buy their champagne, we still want to buy their Prosecco.
You also want to sell goods and services, and that was a big point of the debate last week, how important it is for goods and services across our country.
Right, I'm going to ring the bell.
It's for our families and businesses and our prosperity.
We're pressing the buzzer.
That's what the debate's about.
We are going to resume sometime soon. It is always lovely to get your thoughts, and thank you for doing it with such good humour. Lovely to see you both.
Thank you.